Welcome to Swayam MOOC course NGOs and Sustainable Development, Unit 5, Module 34, Legal Measures to Control Pollution, Learning Objectives. By the end of this module, you will be able to learn about the acts enacted for controlling pollution, understand how these acts are a necessity for sustainable development by studying a few case studies. Pollution prevention. According to Pollution Prevention Act, source reduction refers to any practice that is prior to recycling, treatment or disposal minimizes the amount of any hazardous material, pollutant or contaminant entering any waste stream or otherwise discharged into the environment comes under the source reduction of pollution. It reduces the risk these compounds, pollutants or contaminants pose to the environment and to the public health. By altering the manufacturing processes, advocating the use of non-toxic or less hazardous substances, applying conservation practices and recycling the materials rather than adding them to the waste stream, pollution prevention aims to reduce or eliminate the waste even at the source. Now, what are the acts that are related to pollution control? The most important ones are highlighted in this lecture. The Water Prevention and Control Pollution Act of 1974 and its amendment in 1988. The Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act of 1981 and its amendment which was carried out in 1987. The Environment Protection Act of 1986. Noise pollution rules from 1987 known as the Uttar Pradesh Nagar Mahapalika Prohibition of Noise and Regulation of Loudspeaker. The Ozone Depleting Substances or the ODS Regulation and Control Rules of 2000. The Regulation of Persistent Organic Pollutants or the POP Rules of 2018. Now, these are the most important rules or acts related to pollution control enacted in India. The Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act of 1974, which is known as the Water Act, was passed to address the water pollution, prevention and control as well as to preserve or restore the nation's water resources. The Water Act imposes fines for non-compliance and forbids the discharge of contaminants into the water bodies above a specified standard. The Central Pollution Control Board, which is the CPCB, which establishes the guidelines for the prevention and management of water pollution, was established at the federal level under the Water Act. The State Pollution Control Board, that is the SPCB, operates at the state level under the supervision of the Central Pollution Control Board as well as the state government. The Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Cess Act came into existence in 1977. The Water Cess Act was created in order to raise funds for the central and the state pollution control boards operating costs. The Act was last amended in 2003. The Act imposes a cess, that is a tax, on the local government and particular designated industries for the emission of water effluent and provides financial incentives for pollution mitigation. The central government pays the central and the state boards the amount it deems appropriate after deducting the costs associated with the collecting. The Act offers a polluter a 70% reimbursement of the applicable cess upon installing effluent treatment equipments in order to promote capital investment in pollution management. Now, let us see the case study, the reasons behind the pollution of the Ganges. In Uttarakhand, there are 4,600 industries, 298 of which are extremely polluting in nature. Numerous enterprises began their operations based on the government's recommendation, since certain group of industries were permitted to operate without the need to get any clearance from the Uttarakhand Pollution Control Board. Further, sewage treatment and cutting edge technology for wastewater treatment was not used. Sewage accounts for 75% of the pollution in the Ganges. Pollution from the urban growth also adds to the river's sewage pollution. So, the project was initiated, which is the first phase project, for the purpose of reducing the water pollution in the Ganga river, and the Ganga Action Plan was launched in 1986. The principal goal of this strategy was to rid the Ganga river of pollution caused by the discharge of the waste from the cities that had settled along the banks of the Ganges. It was intended to clean up the Ganga from Rishikesh to Calcutta. In 1984, the Central Pollution Control Board created a 5-year plan to clean up the Ganga. However, the urban residents who live close to the river did not exhibit any concern for its cleanliness. The representatives of that urban region did not take up this matter in a serious manner to the authorities, because they did not receive any complaints from the local people who were residing in that area. According to the independent authorities' assessment, political parties were reluctant to raise taxes because they did not want to have the risk of alienating with the community people. For the operation and the upkeep of the services in the Ganga Action Plan, the Kanpur Nagar Nigam must pay the operation and management taxes to the Uttar Pradesh Jal Nigam. However, the Uttar Pradesh Jal Nigam is unable to receive the taxes, and the government had to transfer the funds directly to the Uttar Pradesh Jal Nigam. It has been argued that the decentralization of resources and personnel will contribute to a better affair in the state governance. However, it is clear that the urban municipal authorities have to do more in a concerted manner by involving the community for cleaning up the Ganga river. These are the following factors contributing to the waste in the river. Plastics are seen all over the place. Religious activities also add up to the mess. Animal manure, fertilizers, sediments are found in the Ganga river. To assess the water's purity, specialists from the Bharat Heavy Electrical Limited and the National Environment Engineering Research Institute, which is the NEERI, was hired. Despite enormous effort, the Ganga Action Plan was a failure, and millions of dollars were spent for recovering the sediments and the waste. Next came the second phase, which was introduced in 2001, which was called the Namami Ganga program. Under a district union ministry, water ministry, it was established for river rehabilitation, and the centerpiece of Namami Ganga program was introduced. The key achievement of the Ganga project was creating a sewage treatment capacity, creating riverfront development, river surface cleaning, public awareness, industrial effluent monitoring. The following ideas were offered to strengthen the currently in place machinery and speeding up the Ganga cleaning process. 1. Creation of a thorough and fundamental plan, measurement of the quality of the initiatives, getting all the institutions in place to make the program a success, and engaging and mobilizing all the stakeholders involved in the project. The stakeholders being the public, the industries, participants will also be the religious members who come to the Ganga to take the holy water. The religious texts regard Ganga as a holy river. To clean up the existing situation, both the government and the population must take an all-inclusive approach and go up for cleaning it. Our waterways cleanliness project is a positive and is in a right direction. To improve the quality of water in the river, the government should create a stricter policy. Environment regulation should be scrupulously adhered to, and offenders should face the consequences. Next came in the Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act of 1981, which was later amended in 1987. It is called as the Air Act. The National Air Act was passed by Parliament in order to carry out the decisions made at the United Nations Conference on the Human Environment, which was held in Stockholm in 1972. The primary goals of this act are to prevent, control and lessen the air pollution in the nation, as well as to improve the air quality. The boards are established for the governance. The boards, namely the State Pollution Control Board and the Central Pollution Control Board. The boards are empowered to create regulations to ensure that the air pollution is kept under control around the country. The law also gives the board the authority to sue businesses or manufacturing concerns which violate the prescribed standards for air quality. According to the Act, the State Pollution Control Board has the authority to test the machinery as well as to collect samples from any place in the manufacturing organizations. It could be from the chimneys, the fly ash, the dust or any object, and it can do analysis to find out whether they are maintaining the standards. Before the Act's revision in 1988, enforcement under it was accompanied by the board's initiated criminal proceedings. The 1988 Amendment Act gave the State Pollution Control Board and the Central Pollution Control Board the authority to close an industrial plant also. The penalties and procedures under the Air Act, it also includes a year in prison can be imposed for violating the norms, and the state government pollution control board has the authority to do this. If the instructions are not strictly followed, it can also be extended up to 6 years with a fine and an extra charge of 5,000 per day. Let us see a case study. As the picture indicates, we see the Delhi, how much pollution is obstructing the view of seeing the Delhi Gate. One of the major issues in the majority of the world's mega cities, particularly in developing nations, is environmental pollution. One of the top 10 most polluted cities in the world is Delhi. The provision of suitable and safe housing, water supply, sanitation, stormwater drainage, waste water treatment, disposal, management of solid and hazardous waste, delivery of the clean water are all municipal services in Delhi city, and all this needs to be properly ensured if we want to control pollution. As seen in the picture, we see the Red Fort, which is not seen properly because of pollution, because of the obstruction due to air pollution. These factors collectively cause a rise in the pollutant level. The demand for transportation has expanded along with the population growth, and as a result there are now more vehicles needed to meet the demand. The major impacts that have been observed because of taking the following steps are unleaded petrol. With gradual reduction of lead content in the petrol, pollution level is found to decline. Similarly, there is a reduction of sulfur in the diesel, and there is a tightening in the vehicle emission norms. All this have been put in force so that the air pollutants from the vehicles are brought down to a lesser extent. Next, coming to the Environmental Protection Act of 1986. The Environmental Protection Act of 1986 was passed by the Indian government after the Bhopal tragedy. To better the human environment, the United Nations conducted at Stockholm Conference in 1972, wherein India participated, started this proceedings in enacting the EPA Act. This conference served as an impetus for this creation of the Environmental Protection Authority. The Stockholm Conference resolutions are put into effect through this act. The term environment as used in this act is defined to include water, air and land, as well as interactions that exist between these elements as well as people, other living things, plants, microorganisms and property. Hence, based on this definition, The entire ecosystem was brought under this act, and hence all the Water Pollution Act, the Air Act also comes under the periphery of EPA. Pollutants, which are defined as solid, liquid or gaseous substance existing in a concentration that may be harmful to the environment, are referred to as environmental pollutants. Any chemical or preparation that could be harmful to people or any other living things, plants, property or to the environment is referred to as hazardous substance. The central government has complete authority to safeguard and enhance the environment through this act. With the intention of protecting and enhancing the Environment Protection Act was passed. It gives the state government and the central government the authority to create agencies tasked with preventing environmental pollution in all of its form and addressing a particular environmental issues which is unique to a certain region or to a certain locality in the country. The Environment Protection Act of 1986 authorizes the central government to protect, improve the environmental quality, control and reduce pollution from any source, prohibit as well as restrict the setting up of manufacturing or production organizations, industrial facility if it does not follow the environmental norms. The EPA Act was passed in accordance with the Article 253 of the Indian Constitution, which allows for the passage of laws to implement international agreements. According to Article 48A of the Constitution, the state must make an effort to maintain the nation's forests and wildlife as well as protect and improve the environment. Every citizen must protect the environment according to Article 51A. Now, let us see the case study of Bhopal gas strategy. It is a highly poisonous cloud of methyl isocyanate, which is called the MIC vapor, which erupted from the Union Carbide pesticide facility on December 3, 1984 in the city of Bhopal. At the time, there were around 800,000 residents residing in Bhopal. 2,000 residents perished immediately after the Bhopal gas tragedy, and up to 300,000 people sustained injuries. The MIC played a significant role in the Union Carbide factory in Bhopal's production of pesticide, one of the deadliest industrial and commercial disasters in the history, Bhopal gas tragedy. Due to the severity of the tragedy, the Bhopal disaster has received significant media attention and served as a lesson in industrial safety. This tragedy, which has also been referred as the Hiroshima of the chemical industry, is one of the biggest industrial disasters that has ever affected industrial settlements. Now, it is not just because of environmental pollution that the Bhopal gas tragedy happened, but it is also because of management failures. There are certain aspects that the management could have taken care of, certain precautions that the management could have taken off. Let us see what are some of the management precautions that we could have handled in a better manner. We term them as the management failures. 1. The methyl isocyanate, according to the Union Carbide, they treated it as just a slight throat or ear irritant. Second, careless safety measures. Management's disregard for routine plant activities, poor plant safety investments. 5. Cost cutting measures was done. Some of them are they reduced the investment in factory upkeep, employee training. Skilled staff were replaced with lesser paid unskilled staff members. Lack of emergency plan on site. Positioning of a plant where there were lots of people around. Further, there was unplanned urbanization which was happening around the industrial area. The facility was approved by the government without looking into the consequences of any leakage in such a plant. The government's failure to recognize the risks that is associated and impose safety norms. the absence of written instructions or reference manuals for the workforce. Management did not require any data logging by both the technical activity staff as well as the general management staff. All these are the consequences which resulted in the Bhopal gas tragedy. If precautions had been taken care of, if proper maintenance has been done and safety measures were put in place, we could have diverted the tragedy to a lesser extent. Next, coming to the noise pollution. Due to ignorance regarding the detrimental effects of noise on both the general public and industry worker in particular, noise pollution did not cause much concern. People were not worried about noise pollution. In the same way as toxic gases pollute our air, water or land, noise is also a significant environmental pollutant. Bridges are destroyed, structures get cracks because of heavy noise. The noise might lead to mental and skin conditions. It has been discovered that noise is an issue brought on by technology and that the general level of noise declines every 10 years to keep up with the societal and economic development. The issue of noise pollution has already reached a dangerous threshold, and like smog, it poses a threat and is also a slow killer. Even in remote places, it is difficult to find a location where the only sounds are those made by nature. Since excessive noise can result in psychosomatic disorders, tension related illness, skin conditions, mental illness, emotional anguish, noise pollution has become a serious national issue in recent years. Medical professionals have also said that noise causes a lot of nervous disorders, excessive heartbeat, irritation, increased propensity for neurotic and irrational behavior. Depending on the volume and duration of the noise, it can also cause anxiety, violence, a mental breakdown. So, prolonged exposure to noise is very much detrimental to health. The type of technological society we have chosen to create for ourselves and our mindless worship of the so-called progress at any cost are the main contributors for this noise. Due to the detrimental impacts of environmental noise, numerous countries have introduced various regulatory measures to address this issue. In the form of waves, noise is a sort of air pollution. It is a mysterious common enemy. In the common era of industrialization and technical growth, it has increased. Unwanted and irritating noises, sounds duly interfere with our daily activities, and these are the noise pollutants. According to Blum, noise distracts people, which interferes with their ability to work effectively. According to Harrell, noise is an unwelcome sound that promotes weariness, and in some industrial settings it causes deafness also. In India, noise pollution is a serious issue. The Indian government has laws and regulations prohibiting the use of cars and firecrackers, but enforcement is not very strict. Since 2003, the Indian NPO Awaaz Foundation has been fighting to reduce noise pollution from a variety of sources through advocacy, public interest litigation, which is the PIL, awareness campaigns and educational programs. The National Green Tribunal issued a directive to Delhi authorities in 2015 directing them to guarantee strict adherence to the regulations on noise pollution, noting that noise is more than simply a nuisance. It can result in very significant psychological stress. However, the law's execution is not very strictly implemented. The rules from 1987, known as the Uttar Pradesh Nagar Mahapalika Prohibition of Noise and Regulation of Loudspeaker, grants the governor the authority to enact the following regulations, which were previously published in the government notification of 1987 in accordance with the subsection of 540 in the aforementioned adenium. Next, coming to the ozone depleting substances rules, which is the ODS rules, which the Environmental Protection Act has mentioned. The EPA has control over the rules which is formulated in the ODS rules. These rules regulate the production, trading, import and export of ODS as well as the production of products containing ODS. They also specify the time frame for phasing out certain specific ODS. These regulations forbid the use of chlorofluorocarbons, which is the CFCs, in the production of variety of goods after January 2003, with the exemption of metered certain specific domains which is used for medical purposes. Similar restrictions also apply the use of halogens after January 2001, with the exception of certain cases again related to medical field. For metered dose inhalers, additional ODS such as carbon tetrachloride, methyl chloroform and CFCs can be utilized up to 2010. Additionally, use of methyl bromide was permitted till January 2015, since hydrochlorofluorocarbons, which is the HCFCs, are employed as a temporary replacement for the CFCs. Their usage is permitted until January 2040. Next, coming to the regulation of persistent organic pollutants rules of 2018, which is the POP 2018. The Stockholm Convention on POP came into force on the 17th of May 2004 and India ratified the said convention agreements on the 13th of January 2006. The manufacture, trade, use, import and export of the following 7 chemicals are prohibited in India. They are the chlordecone, hexabromobiphenyl, hexabromodiphenyl ether and heptabromodiphenyl ether, tetrabromodiphenyl ether and pentabromo-diphenyl ether, pentachlorobenzene, hexabromocyclododecane and hexachlorobutadiene. Environmental litigation revolves around 6 doctrines, namely nuisance, trespass, negligence, strict liability, prior appropriation and riparian rights. Riparian rights simply mean the rights bestowed on the people living along the banks of rivers. As per the provision in Article 51A of the Constitution, we have seen earlier, it stipulates that it is the duty of every citizen in India to protect and improve the natural environment, including forests, lakes, rivers and wildlife, and to have compassion for the living creatures. So, every citizen should ensure that we protect our environment, save it for ourselves and for our future generation. We need not wait for any rules, regulations or acts to ensure that we protect the environment. Let us not wait for acts, rules and regulations to save our earth. It is our responsibility to protect our earth, which is our home, and it is our only home. So, now let us see some questions and answers. Question 1. What is PM 2.5 pollution? PM refers to fine particulate matter 2.5 is an air pollutant that is a concern for people's health when the level in air are high. PM 2.5 are tiny particles in the air that reduces the visibility and cause the air to appear hazy when levels are high. While particles with the diameter of 10 microns or less, which is called the PM10, can penetrate and lodge deep inside the lungs, the even more health damaging particles are those with diameter 2.5 microns or less. Question 2. How is AQI processed or calculated? Air quality index is calculated based on the average of all the pollutant concentrations measured in the atmosphere for a full hour, or it could be for 8 hours or for a full day. An air quality index is used by government agencies to communicate to the public how polluted the air is in their area. Question 3. Does India have a Clean Air Act? The Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1981 is an act of the Parliament of India to control and prevent air pollution in India. This is referred to the Clean Air Act. The law was further amended during 1987. So, to summarize, in this module, we have learnt about important acts that is used to control pollution in India. Understand how these acts are a necessity for India by studying various case studies in India. Thank you.